the documents rather than in the hopes that some distance would help me think more clearly. I set off on a 2-day work trip to Dubai. However, while there, I received an email that completely stopped me in my tracks. My heart pounded with pride and pleasure when I received my dad's congratulations, Miss Green, on your project being shortlisted for this year's International Architecture Award. You are the first American woman to achieve this milestone. Voice in my head. As my taxi drove through the city, I thought about how proud Jake would be. Perhaps he would finally understand what my career meant. But when I got home that evening, I was met with laughter from the living room. As I opened the door, I heard Jake's harsh, bitter voice. "Oh God, I wish she would just go away." Being on edge all the time, Jake stated Madison's voice was sweet but venomous. "So, why don't we force her to leave?" "Don't worry, honey, I've got a plan." My heart fell when I realized what was going on. I had wanted to tell Jake about my victory, but instead, I discovered that my own family was working against me. For 10 years, I was unable to breathe because my hand was shaking while I gripped my bag. I stood there with the award notification in my hand, their laughter resonating around me, and it became evident that this time I wouldn't simply leave. Instead, I would close this chapter on my own terms. I had spent the entire weekend cooking and cleaning. Early mornings and late nights were spent building a life for this family, and now they were casually planning to throw me out. That night, I quietly packed the necessities. I said a silent goodbye as I shut the door behind me, leaving behind everything connected to the past, including my wedding ring, the presents, and the memories. 2 days later, I set up a meeting with Jake and Madison at a posh hotel in the heart of the city. The conference room on the 30th floor provided the ideal setting for my plans. I showed up early wearing a dapper suit and placed my award notice, project contracts, and allocated divorce paperwork on the table. When Jake and Madison came, they were surprised. I calmly added, "Please sit," as Jake's shirt was wrinkled and his smug, angry countenance had changed to one of uneasiness. "What's all this, Sarah? Is this a last-ditch attempt?" "I remained calm because I wanted you two to be here for closure," Madison hissed. Additionally, to make a few clarifications, I presented them with the award notice. My father and I had dreamed of winning an International Architecture Award for years, and I recently found out that I am a finalist. I wanted to share it with my family, but you both made it plain where I stood, so I played the audio of their hurtful remarks into the room. Madison scoffed, "Truly, you never acknowledged it." Their voices filled the room. Madison's face became pale as something was taken out of context, and Jake looked appalled. Madison stumbled and shook his head, indicating that there was no miscommunication. "I am fully aware of how you two feel about me." Sarah waited while Madison snapped her composure apart, and Jake stretched out with desperation in his eyes as I slid the divorce papers across the table. "Goodbye, Madison, you believe that your fancy career and award make you superior to us. I don't believe I've improved. For the first time, I was free to pursue happiness on my own terms, so I firmly replied, but I do know my worth, and it's not here." I packed my belongings and left Jake and Madison in somber quiet outside, knowing that the world was waiting for me, full of promise. A month later, I moved into a brand new flat in a high-rise building with a city view. My love for architecture was reflected in the building's exquisite design and stunning views. Every morning, I reminded myself that I had created this new life by looking out over the city, reconnecting with old friends, taking on exciting projects, and opening a new office downtown for my expanding team. My work was flourishing every day, presented exciting new challenges and achievements, and I was declared the winner at the Worldwide Awards event. As I presented the medal in recognition of the dream my father and I had once shared, applause erupted around me. It was an unreal moment that was full of pride and nostalgia. As I stood on that stage, I understood that every traumatic event had led me to this very moment. Formed the person I am today, more self-sufficient and unflappable with every stride ahead, I felt the burden of the past lift, freeing me up to design since my heart was full and my mind was clear. The universe served as my canvas for my future, and I was prepared to build a life that was worth living. Recipes. I was inspired to work even harder by Jake's goodwill when he stated, "Sarah, you don't have to do so much. If you overwork yourself, we'll all be worried." However, Madison's attitude drastically transformed the situation. Bland, I would politely reply, "I'm so sorry. I'll do better next time," while holding back. "Jake, how are you supposed to get your nutrients like this?" she asked. She would say things like, "You're so busy with work, but this is just sad." and my hands would clench in fury before she would make harsh remarks. She would even criticize how I folded laundry. When their spouses are too preoccupied with their jobs, men begin to look about, especially when it comes to a kind-hearted man like Jake. Her remarks hurt, but I put up with it because this was now my family. Jake would sometimes attempt to defend me. Even though he might not express it that way, his voice would trail off when she gave him a harsh look. Every time he retreated, my love for him waned a bit, but I clung to the hope that Madison would eventually comprehend me. One evening, I told Jake about my dream. One day, I hope to open my own architecture firm. Create things that bring people joy, and I'd have more time for us if I owned my own business. That's amazing. I felt like I had a true partner recently when I informed Jake that I had scored a big project that may define my career. At first, he seemed thrilled, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. "Sarah, you'll make it happen." "I know it," he replied with a warm smile. I still wanted to think that one day we would be a true family, but that night changed everything. He looked down as if he was hiding something, but he added, "Just make sure you don't neglect things here at home." "Okay, Mom's been worried." Madison put her hand on his shoulder and gave me a disapproving look then. Madison's caustic, teasing voice broke the stillness as I washed the dishes. "Sarah arrived here just now, and her abrupt tone made my shoulders tense." I sighed. After washing my hands, I entered the living room and was struck by the strong odor of alcohol. "Sarah, are you really going on business?" Jake was sitting on the couch looking nervous, while Madison looked red and smug. "Journeys, or is it something else?" she inquired in an accusatory tone. She took out a piece of paper with divorce papers on it, and I froze, my throat tightening, but I remained composed because arguing would only make things worse. Jake had already signed it, and we're keeping it on hand in case you cross the queue. She smiled mockingly as she spoke. My heart pounded while I gazed at. Jake's handwriting is recognizable. Her comments made my veins feel like ice, and my fingers began to shake as I thought back to our wedding day, our house, and the small moments we spent together. "What's going on, Jake? Does our marriage mean so little to you?" I said, but Jake refused to look at me. "Mom is just worried because you've been gone so much lately," he muttered. "Jake is worried." "Running off on all those business trips and leaving the house in disarray," Madison added. Jake's need for his mother's approval overshadowed any love or dedication to me, as I realized when I looked at him. I'm frustrated, yet not willing to express how hurt I am. I said, "I've taken care of you both and kept this house running for years. This is how you repay me." "Madison." She rolled her eyes. "I'm always so busy," she sarcastically said. "Jake even admitted to me that he was tired of you constantly being away." Jake turned away like a reprimanded child. Yes, I did say that, he conceded weakly, but something inside of me snapped at that very moment. I couldn't give up just yet, so I didn't sign. The man I had trusted with my heart was seeing someone who was always tearing me down. "She's really obnoxious and usually makes things tense, so I wish she would just leave." "Oh, fine, let's get rid of her. I have a plan." "Leave it to me." I froze when I heard my husband talking, and then I heard my mother-in-law laugh sharply from the living room. My knees began to shake, and I felt like I couldn't move. A short while ago, I had been looking forward to returning home after 2. I had purchased Jake's favorite bourbon weeks in advance with the intention of spending a peaceful evening as a family. While sitting on the train, I had grinned at the idea, but as soon as I entered the room, I could hear them scheming to get rid of me. It felt pointless to me to have spent 10 years of my life with this family, remembering all the early mornings I had to get up for in order to make breakfast, spending the weekends organizing meals they enjoyed, and making warm dinners late at night. Yet Madison, my mother-in-law, would constantly throw away my food, saying it was unfit for us each time I made it in private. Jake didn't come home from work on my birthday last month, and when I discovered that he had gone to a posh restaurant with his mother, my heart ached. Sadness. My name is Sarah Green. I'm 35 years old, and I work as an architect. I've traveled the world, designing beautiful buildings in Paris, New York, Dubai, and other places. I realized that all of that had been for nothing when I heard them talking excitedly about their plans to push me out in the living room. My anger grew like a fire inside of me, and I gripped the handle of my suitcase tightly. Areas that attract people. My father used to say that architecture could warm hearts and add beauty to people's lives, and I've carried his words with me ever since he and my mother died in an accident. Joy, however, didn't know any of this. She believed that a woman belonged in the house and that my work was just a small side gig to help out. I worked hard to keep his dream alive after I was 15. I graduated first in my college class and got a job at a global architecture firm. For the majority of my 20s, I didn't think about dating. I was labeled a workaholic, but I didn't care. 3 years ago, though, everything changed when I met Jake, a mutual friend. When we first met, Jake had a kind eye and genuinely wanted to understand my work. I felt like I had found someone who truly understood me. I married him feeling like I had regained the family warmth I had lost so long ago. We moved into a cozy apartment together and spent weekends choosing furniture. He introduced us and seemed to have different architecture, which is amazing. Selecting drapes and putting a plant by the window was a straightforward but genuine moment of joy. But it ended less than a month after our wedding. Without asking, Jake's mother Madison moved in. "I just can't bear to be alone anymore," she sobbed. Jake unwillingly and visibly agreed, saying, "I'm sorry, Sarah's mom has been so depressed lately." I could see how deeply attached he. I worked hard to make Madison feel welcome, getting up early to make breakfast, taking care of the house even after long workdays, and organizing activities for us on the weekends, such as going on trips or trying new things. I understood her loneliness because his father had died before we were married, and I saw this as my opportunity to establish a warm relationship with her.